Okay, good morning. So today you should be on lesson 6.6, and that's on page 298. Today we're going to be solving some percent problems using proportions, and we're going to use the same formulas and process that we did for the last lesson. Okay, so finding these answers, the percents, is kind of like, I think of it as a puzzle or a mystery you need to solve. You've got some information, you've got some clues from the book that give you some of the answers, some of the materials, some of the clues that you need to answer the problem. But you've got to find the missing one, and then that will give you your answer. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for the missing number. All right, so on page 298, they talk about a ski resort, okay? And they said that if 60% of the trails were open, and you know that 27 trails are open, but you want to know how many trails are there altogether, you need to set up your problem so that you can see what it is you're looking for, okay? And I want to switch this around. There we go. All right, so if you had 60% of the trails were open, and you had counted them, and you knew that 27 of them were open, so then that's, well, what is the whole? How many trails are there altogether? So this is how you would set it up. 60% of how many total trails equals 27. What is that 60% of what? So this is how you would set it up. And then we know that we need to take, first step, we need to take the percentage sign off. So we're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So we have 0.60. We know that the word of means to times. So we could put the times symbol like that, but that looks like an X, and we're already putting next to it, we're going to put an N, another letter. So that's why it gets kind of confusing if I were to do it that. It would look like 0.60xn, and then that might confuse you or someone else coming along and not understanding what you were doing. So that is why when we're multiplying, if you put the unknown number, that variable, right next to another number, in math, that means you're multiplying. Okay, so we don't have to write the of, we don't have to write the multiplication symbol that way or this way. You just write it right next to the number that you're going to be multiplying it by. Okay, so 0.60 n means 0.60 times an unknown number, and that equals 27. We know that. We counted. When you went skiing, you counted how many trails were already open. Okay, now we want to find out what this n is. So once we have our equations set up like this, then we need to get rid of this number, whatever it is. We want to get rid of it so that we have just the n on one side and then a number on the other side of the equal sign, because that will tell us what the n equals. Okay, so we have 0.60 times n. So in order to get rid of this 0.60, you're going to do the opposite procedure. Well, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to do 0.60 divided by 0.60. Okay? And what you do to one side, you need to do to the other. So you want to get your calculator out, and you're going to put in 27 divided by 0.60, and you should come up with 45. And on this side of the equal sign, we got rid of this. All we have left is the n. And so now my number, my unknown number that I was solving for is 45. So 60% of 45 equals 27. So we've solved the puzzle or the mystery. Okay? Let's try another one. Let's see if we can set this up here. So you're going to try the next one, which is quick check number 1. Go ahead and read that. And let's see if you can set it up in like a sentence so that we can solve it. All right? It says a plane flies with 54% of its seats empty. Okay, and you counted the seats. You went on the plane and you counted the empty seats. And the book says that there were 81 seats empty. Okay, so we're going to set up our problem. Okay, so we have 54% of the seats in the airplane. Well, we don't know how many seats there are. You didn't count that. You just counted the empty ones. So let's go ahead and put an S there for the seats, okay? Which we don't know how many there are altogether. But we do know that there are 81 seats empty. Okay? So 54% of a certain number equals 81. So this is how you would set it up. Now you can see how to work it out. We have 54%. Let's change that percent to a decimal. Move it over to the left. So you should have 0.54. The word of means to times an S. So we're just going to put that variable right there, right next to the 0.54. And that equals 81. Okay? Now since we're multiplying, and now we want to get rid of this 0.54. We're going to do the opposite. So we're going to divide. Okay. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Otherwise, they get jealous. Okay, that cancel each other out. We just have the S left. And go ahead and do, on your calculator, 81 divided by 0.54. What did you come up with? Should have come up with 150 seats. Okay. 81 divided by 0.54. So the total number of seats was 150. So 54% of 150 equals 81. And you solved that mystery, that problem. All right. In your book, they say the next section talks about finding a part. Again, we're going to go back to using the key concepts from the last lesson. All right, so finding a part. Let's see. All right, so it says that the teens surveyed, of 3,072 teens surveyed, 2,212 say they read for fun. What percent of the teens surveyed say they read for fun? All right, so now we have just words that we're needing to put into a sentence and an equation form so that we can see what we need to do. All right, so let's see if I can. All right, it says what percent of teens, so I have blank percent of the teens. Now I could put the word teens, let's go ahead and do that, of teens that were surveyed said they read for fun. It says of the 3,072 teens surveyed, 2,212 said they read for fun. Okay, so they're asking what percent of the teens that were surveyed said They did it for fun. Well, we know that this is the actual amount of teens that said they read for fun was 2,212. Okay, but we want to find out the percent. All right, so we're going to say N% of the teens surveyed. That's your other, let's change this word to numbers. And they said there was 3,072 teens in all that were surveyed. And out of that, 2,212 said they like to read for fun. So what is that if we wanted to say that as a percent? How were we going to find that out? Well, now we have set it up in an equation, and you can see it's the same way that we just did the last one. But now we're missing a different piece of information. Okay, so again, we can set it up this way. N times 3,072. So let's just go ahead and put the 3,072 in front of the N. It doesn't matter if you put it before or after. This is just the normal and acceptable way to write it. People, when you're working with math, if you put the number in front of the variable, okay? But you should remember that in multiplication, if you have 3 times 5, it's the same answer as 5 times 3. So when you're multiplying, you can put you can change the numbers back and forth because the answer will still stay the same. Okay, that's why we can put the 3,072 in front of the variable or behind it. But it is more acceptable when you're writing it to put it in front. Okay, so we have this in front. N% of 3,072 equals 2,212. So you're just going to, let's get our, oops, I forgot to put equals 2,212. All right, so it's the same process. I want to get this n, this variable, by itself. So in order to do that, I need to get rid of this number that's attached to it. And in order to do that, I do the opposite procedure of what is already listed. And it's written as doing multiplication, so the opposite would be to divide. So I'm going to divide by 3,072. And remember, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So divide both sides by 3,072. When I did it on this side, it canceled each other out. And now I'm left with just the n. But on this side, we said you should use your calculator. 2,212 divided by 3,072, and you come up with 0.720052. All right, so let's put that down, and then I'll show you what to do. Okay. Okay. Now the question was, we found the answer. What does n equal? It equals this. But the question was what percent? So we need to change this decimal into a percent. All right, and that's easily done by just moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. So n equals 72%. Okay? All right. Let's move on to the next part. Well, we can do a quick, one of the quick checks. The book says, let's see, turn this around so I can erase my board. All right, the quick check, go ahead and read that. See if you can set it up before I set mine up. Okay, it rained 75 days last year. About what percent of the year was rainy? Okay. About what percent of the year was rainy? And it rained 75 days last year. Okay. Do you have yours set up? All right, let's see how you did. This is what I have. What percent of the year was it rainy? Well, we know it was 75 days. Well, what percent is that? All right, so we're going to fill that in with the n, that's our unknown, and the of, and let's change that year from words to numbers. How many days are in a year? You should know this. 365 days, right? And that equals 75. All right. So we have 365 days times n. That's, I just took this and changed it, simplified it, basically. Okay. And that equals 75. We're multiplying here, and I want to get rid of the 365, so I just have the n. So I'm going to divide both sides by 365. Cancel this out. Oops. Here's your calculator. And you should have come up with 0.205479, and it probably goes on and on. But we don't have to write any more than that. We don't even have to write all of that. All right, now I need to change my decimal to a percent. So I'm going to move my decimal point over 2 places to the left. And remember the question at the beginning was about how much percent. So that means that they're not looking for an exact number. We're going to do some estimating, some rounding. Okay, so in this case, let's just go to the 10th percent. All right, so I move the decimal point over 2 places to the right, so I have 20%, and we're going to go ahead and leave that decimal in there. Okay, so we're going to say 20.5%. Because I did not want an exact, and because this number keeps going on and on. All right, so therefore we're just going to cut it off though at the 0.5, which is pretty normal. Sometimes in the book it might ask to simplify it to the 100th place, but usually it's just the 10th place. All right, so when it does say to simplify to the 10th place, this is how you do it. You just move the decimal point over and then look what number is now in the 10th place. Okay, notice on the bottom of page 299, there is, it says key concepts. So these are just the three ways that you can set up your proportions and work them out. They've kind of got it in a little space so you can see it better, clearer. But remember, when you're reading these problems, you need to read the story problem, and then you need to set it up like we've been doing with the percent of, and then a number or a variable, and then another number here. When you set it up this way, then you can see what the next steps are going to be for you to do. Okay, I have written out this. I think I asked you to make one yourself, but what I'm going to do is make a copy and attach it to your the assignment page for today, so that you have this right in front of you. Or if you don't want to download it, that's fine. You can just keep looking back at page 299. It has the same exact information there. Okay. Let's look at page 300. Okay, on page 300, it's at number 1. Your homework assignment is 1 through 6. Number 1 says, do the following questions mean the same thing? Well, here are the questions. What is 20% of 40? That's question number 1. Question number 2, 20 is what percent of 40? 20 is 40% of what number? All 3 of those questions, are they the same? Are they asking the same thing? Well, let's look at it for a minute. The first one said, what is 20% of 40? That was the first one. The second one says 20 is, the word is means equals. 20 is what percent of 40? And then the last one says 20 is 40% of what? Or how much? So these are three, they use the same numbers, but they asked it in different ways. And so when we set them up in an equation like this, you can see that they are not the same. They are asking different questions. They're missing different pieces of the puzzle. All right, so they're not the same. And so you will not come up with the same answer for each of them. All right, so this is why it's showing you that it's very important to, as you're reading it, that you're setting it up, you're setting your equation up correctly. If you don't set your equation up correctly, you're going to get the wrong answer because you're looking for the wrong piece. And if you put the numbers in the wrong order, then you're going to get the wrong answer. All right, so make sure that you are writing it out as an equation like this, one of these three ways. Okay, percent times a number equals another number. All right, and if you don't know it, then you just plug in a variable, a letter. Okay, all right, if you have any other questions or need some extra help, please email me and we can do a little Zoom session, just one-on-one, to clarify it. Okay, so today's homework is simply to do page 300, numbers 1 through 6. Well, we just did number 1, so I guess you just have to do numbers 2 through 6. All right, we'll see you later.